the next dozen games, because that's where the majority of the teams are, including the Toronto Maple Leafs, as they prep towards Game 1. Is it big picture stuff, or are you still out to win every game and maybe think about a home ice advantage scenario? How would you see this playing out?
Yeah, I think it's home ice positioning, right? I don't know if I pictured Tampa falling out of it, but eesh. And then Boston surging into it. Like, look out for the Leafs, right, and battling for that position where they're at. I know it's tight right there with Boston and Tampa, but in the Metro too, it's New York and Pitt. They play tonight. It's a big game. You have 4 points separating them, but I think, everyone likes to look at this. What I think, everyone likes to look at like home ice versus away records and everything. And of course you should, but I always think, like, regardless if you're better on the road or you're not so hot at home, is there an advantage really when you look at it that way? Like, I always think home ice is the best to get, right? So like, I think you're playing for home ice and positioning for sure right now with these teams and the Leafs too. Like, they're trying to keep those guys, the Bruins and the Tampa Bay, away from them. They're trying to separate.
Colby, how much of the whole past and ghosts and demons and all this stuff with the Toronto Maple Leafs, how much do you think that plays into their run here? Like, do you think that's in anyone's head, that sort of the problems of the past? I imagine it is.
I think it kind of weighs, and I think it's hard not to think about it a little bit. And I remember when I was playing there too, and Berkey's like, he was our GM, and he's like, these kids aren't bearing, these guys aren't bearing the weight of the past. Like, this whole team wasn't here, whatever years ago. Right. And, you still read about it every day. They still talk about it. It's still brought up all the time, and it's kind of always in your face. So you do have to deal with that a little bit, but I don't know. I don't know. I get a feeling. Is there like something different about them this year? Like, is there like a different feeling with this group this year? I feel like in the last few weeks, I feel like it's kind of tilted a little bit to like, this might be a different feeling for the Leafs.
Well, I think if anyone's feeling that way, the first place you look at is historic seasons out of Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner. This is something, and I grew up in Toronto, right? I went through Sittler, McDonald, right to Derlago and Vive, to Gilmore and Andrewchuk. And now we're looking at, and Matt's, of course, in that era. But now we're looking at something that Leaf fans have never really felt before.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the feeling is different right now.
Yeah, and 100 points, Austin Matthews. I think Marner could possibly, in these remaining games, depending, right? Like, I don't know. You like to think you'd give your big boys a little bit of a break maybe at the end, but I think with the way he's been playing too, like 100 points is another question with where he's at with the remaining games and what he's able to put up too. So, and the goals, like, I think when you have those personal individual goals for your stars, I think that drives you a little bit differently. And we've seen it, right? We've seen, whether it was McDavid kind of pushing for the 100-point mark in a shortened COVID season and like what that meant. And he says, of course, it doesn't mean anything, I'm just going to play. But you could see, like, you have something else when you're already good and you have these extra little things driving you inside, it does bring you closer together as a team and a group. And it does drive you to like different heights. I feel it's like a different feeling around the team or in the room when you're kind of pushing for something on the side like that. So, yeah, I think you're right, Kipper. I think you're right. I think those individual things are big and kind of pushing this team and maybe having a different feel.
Where do you think Jack Campbell's head's at? This whole thing hinges on Jack Campbell. How confident are you that he can find the guy he was for the first month or two of the year?
Yeah. I don't know. That's like...
Yeah.
Man, we've talked about this, right? We talked about it when Freddie left and he was the guy, and then it's like, okay. And then he was having one of the greatest seasons, like one of the best stories in the NHL, an all-star game, and everything was going great. And then, can he find like what he was, previously? I think he can. I also think it takes, there's always going to be a certain amount of pressure or weight on his shoulders, I think, playing that position in Toronto. And, we talk about the past and like what he's got to get over, and kind of, a lot of eyes looking at him. Like he's obviously right now he's put himself in the question mark territory, right? It's like, okay, I've got all eyeballs on me. I've got to prove myself here. So do I think he's going to be, I think he just has to be good. I don't think he has to be like outstanding, right? Like I think, you add Giordano, I think you add all these guys, you get Muzzin's been back, and, those guys are huge for them on the back end. And then, he just has to be good because you have enough talent and you have enough ability. And I think that's what they're just hoping, that Jack Campbell doesn't have to put this pressure on him to be like steal games and be the star. He just has to be good. He has to be solid.